Okay, I'm by a busy street, but I thought today I'd do a little walk and talk by the Noble Woods Park. So I just found this park. It's between Beaverton and Hillsboro, Oregon. And I just found it about a month, 2 months ago. And let's just go walk through the park. So it's a beautiful day. This is in December 2024, December 5th. And, well, let's see who's in the park. And I feel very modern doing this kind of thing today. Hello. Yeah, I'm not self-conscious at all. So I think we can see we're walking down the path now. And there's trees and a stream. And a fence. So the cool, crisp weather we've been having bizarrely got me to thinking of a couple years ago when there was a heat dome over this part of Oregon. And that heat dome produced temperatures of over 120 degrees Fahrenheit. In the summer, of course. But we're not used to that kind of heat in Oregon, where it was pushing 130 degrees at some points, 130 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's probably something like 40 degrees Celsius. Headed towards 50 degrees Celsius. And that is very unusual here in this part of the world. We're a little less than 45 degrees latitude, because I know if I travel south about 40 miles, there's the 45 degree latitude marker. So that's kind of north of the equator, a considerable amount, I would argue. But nevertheless, we were getting this heat. And I think it's a pretty clear indication of climate change, even coming to a semi-northern area, such as we are. So to have a cool, crisp winter day, but it's still above freezing. It's still probably something like 40 degrees Fahrenheit. But it did get down to freezing, I would say 0 degrees Celsius in the evenings. And maybe just a bit colder, maybe down to -5 Celsius in the evenings. And that's typical for winter. So the winters tend to be mild. We're close to the ocean. Portland is probably about 70, 80 miles inland from the ocean. So the ocean tends to give us mild winters and milder summers. But we did get that heat dome of 120 degrees Fahrenheit. There's a bridge, got frost on it. And I think it looks nice. And there's a bit of a creek here in this park. The water looks kind of green and yucky. Don't think I'd want to go swimming in that. But it's still scenic. So there are people coming. We'll go by them. Hello. So people out walking their dog. Hey. So I've watched a lot of vloggers. This must be what it's like, when you're walking around and seeing people, and you're doing this. It's one level above talking to yourself, because I am talking to myself, but I'm also talking to this camera. But if I was walking around without this, just talking like this, I think the people passing by would think I'm mentally ill. And I would too if I saw someone like that just walking around talking to themselves. But I digress. So I think what we're going to see with all this climate change is a vast migration of people. I'm sure it's already started. I heard that in Honduras and El Salvador that many farmers can't grow the crops they used to grow. Many of them have come north to the United States. I think the more current refugees we're getting along the border are economic refugees. I saw a lot of Venezuelans here in Portland. There was some event, it must have been some kind of Venezuelan Independence Day, and this would have been, I want to think back in July or August, but there were a bunch of Venezuelans with a Venezuelan flag having some kind of rally outside of the Beaverton Library. So I still think those are economic refugees, not really environmental refugees. But I think the environmental refugees will come, and I think if there's a book, it may only be a Kindle book, it's called Preparing for Climate Change by David Pogue, who was a technology reviewer for the New York Times and then went to Yahoo when Marissa Mayer was trying to make Yahoo into a real competitor to Google. And I bought a Sony a6000 camera because of his review. It's a really good review of that camera, and I love that camera, so I'm glad I bought it, and glad I read that review of it he wrote. But in his book, Preparing for Climate Change, he essentially says people in the southern half of the United States are going to have to move north. And I think that's true, that people in the Southwest will have to move north because of drought, and in the Southeast because of hurricanes and sea level rise. So I think in the 2030s, we're going to be seeing a lot of Americans moving into the northern half of our country. And we do have room, but it's going to be an unpleasant transition. So now we're on a different bridge. This one's a little more thawed out, a little less frost. So there's just some lunchtime musings out walking around in Noble Woods Park. There's the murky water. You know, I'm not going to dive in it. Doesn't look very swimmable at the moment. Maybe my kayak, I could get in it. It's also winter. It's pretty cold. But just thought I'd try this out and see if vlogging can work.